for each other? Yes! Are you ready to stand together, united as one? Yes! And are you ready to do Thurston again? Yes!
People not from Ashbourne find it really difficult sometimes to get their head around this game.
Well, it is, it's strange rivalry.
The greatest game in the world for us. Yeah, it's the origin of football, which I'm obsessed with. And there's nothing better than a whole town fighting over a ball for 2 days.
It's Shrovetide. It's in your blood. It's everything really. You brought up with it around here.
I've been coming since I was 4 years old. I'm 76 now. And I've never missed a year.
We do think it's the birth of football, as it were, because it's mass football was a big custom across the country, and that kind of evolved into what we know as football, the modern game of football.
If you look at the history of the game, we say it's 900 years old. I mean, it predates written recordings, pre-Elizabethan times.
Shrovetide is a game we play in Ashbourne every Shrove Tuesday and Ash Wednesday. The town kind of just absorbs Shrovetide, and Shrovetide absorbs the town, and then on the 2 days it's played, it starts at the plinth, which is on Shawcroft car park. It's thrown into the crowd, and eventually, however long it may take, they'll reach one of those goals at Sturston or Clifton. Tap the ball on the mill wheel 3 times, and then they've scored a goal, and then it's over and we start on the next one. And it's very difficult to put into words how exciting it can be, at the same time as how tough it can be. According to the game, you're born on the north side of the Henmore or the south side of the Henmore. And if you're on the north side of the river, you're an uppard, and if you're on the south side of the river, you're a downard.
Downards. We're all friends pretty much throughout the year, but those 2 days, you know, friendships go out the window.
It means that much that you would actually punch your best mate.
Upwards. Go on, lads!
Everybody on this marketplace should be upward. If you're not, they're in danger.
Oldest running rivalry on the earth, isn't it? So on them 2 days, it's a bit like, you're not my friend.
I remember asking a Shrovetider about what he would do if his son came and said, I want to be a downard. And he said to him, look, if my son came and said he was gay, doesn't matter, I would love him forever. But if he came and said, I want to be a downard, he's out the house, that's it.
Yeah, you play hard. It's great, it's fantastic.
My name is Tim Baker, and I am one of the official ball painters and historians for Ashbourne Royal Shrovetide Football. I've been painting the balls for 31 years. I started in 1991 as a 17-year-old boy. I'm now a 47-year-old old man, still doing the role that I've been doing all these years. The paint is so transient and temporary. I always liken it to throwing a China tea service to a rugby scrum and expecting it to come back intact. It's just not going to happen. For me, on average, I put about between 50 and 70 hours work every January in creating the ball for somebody, and to see it destroyed within a couple of hours can be quite heart-wrenching. Nobody knows actually where and how the game started in Ashbourne.
You'll find this is sketchy because actually because there's a fascinating story to this. The records were burnt in a fire, so we gather. So there's lots of theories as to when Shrovetide officially started, and the history of it is as fascinating as it is completely lost. But it could go back for many, many years. In medieval times, we think, I think is the best bet.
600 years ago, mass street football like we play here in Ashbourne was commonplace throughout the United Kingdom. Some of it was banned 500-600 years ago.
And Ashbourne Royal Shrovetide is said to be the last bastion of that initial primeval game that we all play of football.
This predates rugby, it predates soccer, it predates all of those conventional ball games. Our game has carried on. The First World War didn't stop it, the Second World War didn't stop it. In fact, during the First World War, Tommy soldiers from Ashbourne that were fighting on the front wrote letters back, and they said, please don't cancel the game. We want this to keep going because this is what we're fighting for.
And it's a game that's played over 2 and a bit miles in a town that becomes a football pitch. The upwards need to get to Sturston Mill, the downwards need to get to Clifton Mill. And then in the middle of that, you've got a town. So you have a thriving community and all the things that go along with a thriving community, like a hospital and a bus station and car parks and supermarkets and things like that, and shops. And it's very much at odds with that medieval game that we think about, but actually it is part of the pitch.
We actually owe the game being played today to F.W. Woolworths & Co, because Woolworths had a shop in town, and on Shrove Tuesday 1960 the ball was pushed into the shop. It broke the shutters down at the front, the ball was played through the shop, kicked through the shop and out through the fire escape down the back. There was people helping themselves to sweets and penny chews. Apparently a guy took the ball on top of a pyramid of paint, and the pyramid of paint was kicked down, and all this and the other. And the committee met the following day, an emergency meeting on the Wednesday morning, thinking this is it, this is the end of Shrovetide, because this is terrible, just can't allow this sort of thing. And Woolworths never made a complaint, never moaned, and just carried on, put the shop back together, and the game went on as normal. So really, in a way, the game was saved in 1960 by Woolworths.
We've seen brick walls come down, and we've seen branches come off trees and things like that.
When I was growing up, there were certain, everybody has heroes. You speak to people when they were younger, they go back to the 1950s, they might mention Peter Harrison. But when I was a kid growing up in the sort of like 1980s, Mark Harrison was one of the local heroes of the game. He was somebody who was always there. Everybody looked up to that. Certainly we did as Downers.
Mark Harrison, I'm a Downard. I goaled my ball in 1986, I think I was 22. It's hard to explain to an outsider the feeling. The feeling is, well, the goal is massive, and it goes so quick. The walk back after the goal is a mile and a half, but it seems to go within 5 minutes. Interesting stories. I've had a few of them. Me and this lad that I played with for years, Nobby, decided we needed to take a leak. So we jumped over these railings to get out of the way, take a leak. The ball is probably 500 yards down the road, coming towards us. As we jumped over, we noticed, well, we didn't notice, we run into it, an electric fence, which gave us a bit of a kick. So we looked at each other and decided it should probably be a good idea if we got a stick and hooked the electric fence onto the wrought iron fence. So the ball breaks, comes down, we're screaming at the lad that was running with it to throw it over, at which point he threw the ball over. We just stood there with the ball in between our feet and the lad screaming at us to pick it up and run, couldn't understand what was going off. We were just waiting for everybody to grab the fence, and everybody grabbed the fence and it just lit everybody up. It sticks me in mind because it was so funny seeing everybody's face and the people holding onto the fence and unable to let go of it. So that was a funny one. Shrovetide's becoming a victim of its own success in the fact that, like this year, there was excess of 20,000 people.
And that's why they like going into the water or going into mud, or when it snows, because it disperses the crowds. They don't want to get so close to it because they don't want to stand in the mud. But Shrovetiders don't care what they stand in. They could stand in a river, they could stand in a muddy field, or they could stand in, 6 inches of snow. And they'll still be hell-bent on that ball. That's all they want.
The worst conditions are the best conditions for us. But all the locals like it to be bad, raining, snowing, freezing really, just so it keeps people away, and it makes the game more flow more freely, and it makes for a better game.
Shrovetide is really tactical, and you don't realise that when you're an outsider looking in, because it just looks like a massive people, and there's this big swirling, you can see the steam rising from it. It's an incredible spectacle, and that's what we call the hug.
I'm Tom Layton and I'm an upward. For myself, I'm a hug player. It's brutal at times, and if you're not fit and strong, you shouldn't be in there. But yeah, our tactics keep it tight.
You need to be able to control it. It's no use running it and throwing it and kicking it across a field when one of them could pick it up a field from your goal and run off with it.
From the off, just go as hard as you can. basically just trying to get onto the grass. That's what we want to do really, is get onto the grass. But the fish pond's excellent for us because for some reason we always seem to win that battle. We always seem to win that. It always comes out our side. But if you look at the fish pond geographically, if we go from one end to that end, it's a massive game for us. It's like 2 fields really. If you're on the ball and it's coming to a hedge, a lot of lads will just, as it comes to the hedge, peel away because it's painful going through the hedges. And then if you're on it, you just getting pushed through it, to be honest. You say that the rugby club revolves around how the upwards play a little bit. We get a lot of men around the ball and just keep pushing, just keep passing it back through our hands, keep passing the ball back really, so the downers literally can't get hands to the ball. It's always in our hands kind of thing.
Stick it up your jumpers and walk it up there. That's how we've always done it. If it's not broken, you don't fix it, do you? Proper good old-fashioned Shrovetide.
What we used to do when we was kids was we'd go in and to prove that you touched the ball, you probably used to scratch it with your nails and then come back out, and obviously you'd have some paint behind your nails and you'd go and show your mates the paint just to prove that you'd touched the ball out, you know. It's a big thing at 12, 13, just touching it.
It's the biggest 2 days of the year. You know, after Christmas everyone is buzzing.
Just when Christmas comes and goes, and it's just, when Christmas is here, you're not thinking of Christmas. It's 2 months down the line, you think Shrovetide's coming up.
It's a religion to the people in Ashbourne. They cherish it. They think about little else pretty much all year. And then of course in the run up to the game, it becomes a crescendo effect. You just from I suppose probably October, you'll see the runners out training.
My name's Richard Smith. I'm a downard. Running's horrible. It hurts and it's very time consuming. But I always ran for Shrovetide. That was it. You know, I would run all year round for Shrovetide.
All the runners have a defined way that they can go through the field, and it's their preferred route, and they'll train along that route, and they'll know all the little routes that they can take, all the little shortcuts, all the little best points to cross a stream or a fence or whatever, you know.
I get quite frustrated as a runner. You're either a runner or you're not a runner. And I think sometimes people think they are a runner, but you know, at Shrovetide, if you're not consistently running under 6-minute miles for 3-4 miles, you know, in my head, you're not fit enough. You're not getting on the end of it.
With Shrovetide, you really don't know where it's going to go. The breaks are so rapid, so unpredictable, and it can move really quickly. If that ball goes, 1,000 people are just going to come straight after it.
You know, some of the upwards have fantastic runners. You know, one of them, I run with him a lot at the running club. You know, he ran London Marathon in 2 hours 51. He's running 5-minute miles, and he's not the only one. One of the other upward runners, he runs cross country for England. You know, he's a national runner, so we're talking the calibre of runners in this town is really, really high.
In my opinion, and I know we're on camera and I shouldn't really say this, but I think the upwards play a better game. I personally much prefer to watch the upwards play. I think they're just cleverer at it. And that's why they're doing well at the moment. I didn't say that. They are really determined. They're sort of, you watch the team when they're doing their pep talk and things like that, they yearn for it, they really, really want it.
Dobbin, yeah, Dobbin. Just a legend for the upwards, isn't he, really?
I have never seen us so determined. I have never seen us so hungry for glory.
I'd probably say that the upwards have got the edge on us on the speeches because obviously Dobbin's good at what he does.
But we all know it is work, not words, that will get the ball to Sturston.
He sorts us all out, tells us what we need to be doing. Just good bloke, very good bloke.
Are you ready to get on for each other? Are you ready to stand united together as one? Are you ready to see Sturston again?
Scoring a Shrovetide ball was a lifelong ambition, and it's a way of thanking all the lads that helped me score that ball. It's my way of giving a little bit back to them for making my dreams come true.
He scored back in 2009.
Oh, it's all I've ever wanted since I was born. It's everything to me.
I mean, everybody thinks it's possible to score a goal. It isn't. You have to be a Shrovetide, and you have to have been a Shrovetider for a long time to even get close to having an opportunity. And when you eventually do, I can't imagine what that's like. But you see their faces, and you see grown men in tears because they just can't comprehend what's just happened. And you think to yourself, actually, this is just the ultimate prize. If you're an Ashburnian, you cannot get better than that.
The feelings, well, they're massive. You know, it's right. It's like a dagger through the heart. So it means a lot to get it down there.
Downers seemed to dominate the game throughout the 1980s, and then in the early 1990s the Uppards just started to come back and started to get goals, started an odd one here, an odd one there, and then, you know, they just sort of dominated the game over the past 30 years, really, I would say.
Recently the Downers have been better at planning their tactics, whereas the Uppards, I would say, have probably been better at putting the tactics into play, and that's why the Uppards are having a good run of it at the moment.
I always seem to think that it goes in decades, you know, where the Downers will have a good decade and the Uppers come on and have a good decade, but it just went on a little bit longer this time than I've ever known it.
Shrovetide 2019, I would say, was an interesting year. They're all different.
We hadn't won, I think it's for 10 years.
It was becoming hard for the Downers to get lifted, to get a goal.
And what's fascinating to watch is the growing determination of the Downers.
So I want you to give everything. I want you to give it to yourself, to the Downers, to the man next to you. I want to go over there. I want to smash it off the car park, get in these fields, smash it down to Clifton, and let's have a win.
Day one, it was extremely open. The ball was moving so quickly. It was being kicked, it was being thrown. I think someone had clocked about 20 miles on their Fitbit. Is how much we'd run on the Tuesday, but unfortunately there wasn't a killer blow.
It was a pretty messy day, really. We ended up everywhere. We were in the streets, we were in the fields. We actually ended up over by the trail. There was a couple of occasions where for both teams there was opportunities, and it just by chance didn't seem to happen.
I remember from a personal perspective, I remember one particular break where I felt like we were very close to getting it away, and unfortunately an Uppard just out of nowhere jumped on my younger brother when I thought we were in the clear, which is frustrating, and if you play Shrovetide, every Shrovetider will be able to tell you this. You replay every event when you're on that ball. You replay that for the rest of your life. You know, could I have done this? Should I have done that? What would have happened if this hadn't have happened, or if this had happened? And it eats you up sometimes. So again, it was very frustrating at the end of the Tuesday.
When that whistle's blown at 10 o'clock, it's just a shame that you haven't had that goal.
Tuesday night, I was absolutely shattered and disappointed. Woke up Wednesday morning, and my legs were really, really heavy. And I was quite frustrated and angry with myself because I felt like I'd wasted my energy and nothing had come from it. So I thought if something happened on the Wednesday, I wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. So Wednesday, I felt like we were in control of the Downers, but then the Uppards turned it and we started going up towards Sturston. But then the Downers managed to push it back into town, and it got to around 8 o'clock on the Wednesday night, and it was cold, it was wet.
By 8 o'clock, we'd just been in the river for about an hour, so we were freezing cold. I ended up in my auntie's fleece because we were so cold. 2 long days, everyone was tired, and I think I won't be the only one saying this, that I thought it was going to be a 0-0. Got to probably around 8:15, and we're outside the leisure centre, so it is the Clifton side of town. But we're over a mile away from the goal. Well, I was there having a laugh with some of the spectators, just having a chat again, thinking nothing's going to happen. I saw Stephen, and he was just up against this fence, and I was thinking, what's up with him? Because I'd spoken to him earlier in the day, just said hello, because we used to teach him and stuff like that. I used to be his tennis coach. He was like, I've got the ball. And he went, no, look, and he just pulled his leg forward. And I saw it and I was like all the things that go into your head then is just sheer panic. And you could see it on their face that they were petrified. I was thinking, I need to go and tell Rich.
And my younger brother comes over to me and just said, Rich, shall we go round to the other side of the hug? Because the hug was moving back towards town and towards Sturston, the upwards goal. Unaware, I was like, yeah, let's go round. So we started to move round, and these upwards that were behind us made their way round as well. And then my younger brother just put his arm in front of me, stopped me, and just said, the ball's there.
I said, Stephen over there, have a look at him, he's got the ball.
So I looked over, and there was two young lads who had got the ball rested up against the back of their legs against a black fence, whilst the hug was 5 to 10 metres the other side of them. And you're probably thinking it's bizarre, how does a hug of hundreds of people not know that the ball isn't there? But in Shrovetide, especially at night time, it's quite deceptive.
Two lads that were stood on it, they were stood on the ball, and I glanced over to them, they were near it, and I thought, oh, it's a bit strange they're stood there. But because they were young lads, you kind of don't, if it was a player you knew, you'd definitely be going over and thinking what are they doing, and you'd have a look. But because they were pretty unknown, he just carried on pushing past, and we had a bit of momentum at that point, so we just kept going.
My brother said to me, he was like, what we're going to do to me. Like I said, you've got thousands of people there, you've got hundreds of people looking for this ball, and next minute the ball's at your feet, and he's like, what we're going to do.
Richard Smith, he's a teacher, and he'd seen some of his school pupils.
They knew me, I knew them, we all knew we were downwards.
And he said, we just got to go. I was like, now? Like no planning.
In sport, you literally have a split second to make a decision. It could be the right one, it could be the wrong one. I've made wrong ones in the past. So I've just walked over to them, and one of them's opened their legs, I've picked the ball up and put it on my jumper and started to walk off, hoping no one would see me, but an upward saw me. My younger brother tackled him as he tried to get me.
So I could see everything that was going on. It was like in slow motion, like that person could get him, that person could get him, he needs to go here.
I didn't see it go. I don't think many people saw it go, really.
I ran as fast as I could for about 400 metres towards Clifton.
And all of a sudden, once you got past the upwards, it was just like an open road. No one was there, no spectators, no one. It was completely empty.
Last year was an interesting game because for the first time in certainly as long as I can remember, there was no moon. Well, I say there was no moon. There was a very, very slender little bit of moon. And on a clear night, which it sometimes is with Shrovetide, that means there's nothing shining down on the fields. You have pitch black, effectively.
A lot of people didn't know where it was. They all thought it was in town. Some people thought it had gone to Sturston. Some people thought it might have gone to Clifton. No one really knew.
Richard, being downward, wanted to get to Clifton. It was probably the best part of a mile away, getting on for a mile away. So he had a big challenge on. Clock was ticking. At any point during his route across the fields, he could have encountered upwards.
I thought I was tiring. I was tired. I thought I could get isolated because the upwards have some fantastic runners, really good runners. And I thought if they 2 or 3 of them catch me, I'm isolated. They could turn me over, take the ball back to Sturston. So I slowed down a little bit. Unfortunately, I turned around and my younger brother had caught me back up. So I gave him the ball.
He turned around, saw me, popped it to me, and I've just never ran so fast in my life. You can't jog out of those situations together at the same pace. You have to work it out, you have to interchange, especially when we're trying to carry the ball.
And he took it 800 metres or so. Asked him if he could carry it a little bit more for me, but he was done.
I was dead. Honestly, my legs were gone because it'd been such a long 2 days.
But as I'm running, and as me and my brother are running, we've run past my dad, who'd parked his car up and was sat there having a cigarette.
I just happened to get out for a wee, and I was just getting back into the vehicle, and these 2 lads came running past, and thought nothing of it because it was dark.
So my brother's run past him, and then I've come past him and I've screamed at him, yeah, come on. So he gets in his car, my uncle was in the car with him.
And my brother that was in the vehicle, he says, they've got the ball.
So as I'm running towards the goal, my dad was actually driving his van with his hazards on to try and stop any traffic overtaking him.
So I followed behind him, phoned my daughter to see where she was, to let her know that he was on his way down there. And she said, don't worry, Dad, I'm behind you. So I knew that we got all the family there.
he started driving on the other side of the road, but it's a main road, so there were lorries coming the other way, and you had a sister with a mum in one car on the left side, and then he was driving on the right side of the road with oncoming traffic coming at about 40-50 miles an hour.
I stayed on the outside lane to make sure none of the traffic overtook us, in case anybody jumped out to stop him. And I was shouting through the window, come on Richard, you got to get there.
And then Laura, our sister, she was like shouting Rich, shouting my name, like you could tell she was crying because you could hear it in her voice. His dad was shouting at both of us. It was mad.
It was mad, and then my wife was pregnant. She had a phone call saying, the ball's gone, we think Richard's got it. So she finished her lemonade, she wasn't drinking, her lemonade, and as she's walked out this pub, I've come up the hill with the ball. So my wife followed me into the goal. So there must have only been a handful of people at the goal, and my wife was there, my dad, my mum, my auntie, my sister, we're all there. I got in the river and goaled it. And to do the break with my younger brother, again, it's bizarre. Mad, yeah.
And that was it. His name goes down in history. He's a Shrovetide legend.
You're just so relieved that eventually, finally, Richard scored.
It's the best feeling in the world. You can't put it into words. It's being from Ashbourne. You get gold medalists in the Olympics, you get people winning Football World Cups, Rugby World Cups. For people from Ashbourne, scoring a Shrovetide ball is like winning an Olympic gold medal or scoring the winning goal in a World Cup final.
It was just so amazing that we were all there, and I was there to see him run in with it on his own and score it.
It's not just me, it's my family. It's amazing the impact it has on your life. It generally, for me, it feels like it has changed my life.
And then afterwards, everyone was like, we've won. We've won for the first time in 10 years.
The committee would like to thank the players and the supporters and Ashburnians for 2 wonderful days of Shrovetide. We now hail the scorer, Richard Smith.
Massively hurt the upwards were from not losing. We have had a very good run of winning or drawing. Yeah, massive hurt.
That was a photo that was taken by my auntie on the Tuesday of me running across one of the fields. So yeah, it's I like it anyway. It's I think as you get older, there's very few occasions you can make your family proud. I guess I don't know, you know when you have children, obviously, but scoring a Shrovetide ball made my family really proud. So that was nice, and hopefully I've inspired other Downards. And it's doable to break from town. Just need a bit of luck. I think it looks got to have luck on your side. I think, yeah, definitely.
Even now, every time I drive past the island where he ran across in front of me, I end up in tears. So, for anybody that doesn't understand Ashbourne Shrovetide, they won't understand how emotional it is and what it means to the people here. It's like winning the World Cup, the best day of their lives, and all they do, they spend their lives wanting to score that ball, and for my son to actually achieve that, I'm so proud. That's all I can say, really.